Hello, crochet friends! As a thrifty queen, I am always down to save money wherever I can. So you know I shop at Dollar Tree for specific items. I was in Dollar Tree today, stopping in just to pick up a couple of things I needed around the house, and of course, I had to take a walk down the craft aisle. If you are a frequent Dollar Tree shopper, then you probably already know that Dollar Tree does sell yarn. This is Crafter's secret. They also will carry just yarn, which is actually from Premier Yarns. In fact, my Dollar Tree had just a little bit of the chenille yarn from Premier Yarns in stock, and I picked up a couple of colors that I didn't have on hand. I've picked up some metal ergonomic handled crochet hooks at Dollar Tree in the past, but today they had something I hadn't seen before, which was plastic crochet hooks. These are in a 2-pack. I picked up one that is a 4mm and a 4.5mm, and also one that is a 6mm and a 6.5mm. Now, I haven't used too many plastic crochet hooks myself because they tend to flex a little bit, and that makes me scared that the crochet hook is going to break, and I've just always preferred metal crochet hooks. But for $1.25 for each of these 2-packs, I figured it would be worthwhile to pick these up and give them a go. But that is not the reason that I have called you here today. The reason for this video is that I found a crochet kit. This crochet kit is for a succulent. My Dollar Tree in my town is always super picked over, and I felt fortunate that I even found this little crochet kit. This was one of only 2 that they had left on the shelf, and the other one was pretty beaten up. I am an experienced crocheter, and I do make a lot of amigurumi, so I will be bringing a little bit of an advantage to the table over your typical beginner who might be picking up this crochet kit for the very first time. I will try to have an unbiased opinion and look at it from a beginner's perspective to see if this is actually something that would be a good idea for someone who's interested in trying crochet to pick up at their Dollar Tree and give it a go to see if crocheting is for them. All of the amigurumi I've ever made, I've never actually made a little potted plant like this, so now is my perfect opportunity to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We will have me make a cute little succulent that I can keep on my desk, or maybe over here in the background behind me, and we'll get to try out this crochet kit to see if it is worth your $1.25. Okay, the setup's out of the way, let's go make a succulent. Okay, we've got our little kit here, so let's open it up and take a look at the crochet hook. Okay, inside we have an instruction sheet here, and we also have all of our stuff in a little bag. So let's open up the bag and look at our contents. We have our polyfill here in a little bag. We have a metal 3mm crochet hook, plastic sewing needle, purple stitch marker. Cute, but I feel like it would have been better to have a color that isn't any of the colors I'm using, but I'm happy to have another stitch marker. Okay, we have a dark brown yarn and a lighter brown colored yarn, and then a purple yarn. So our plant's gonna be purple. The dark brown yarn will be our soil, and the light brown yarn is going to be the pot that our succulent is going to go into. Now, the cool thing about this would be that if this pattern is any good, once you've made one and you know how to do it, you've got your pattern right here, and you can make these in other yarns that you have, so you don't have to just only have a purple succulent. You can make these in all kinds of other colors if you have other yarn on hand. All right, so we have all of our yarn, we have all of the materials that it says we're supposed to have, which is good. So now let's take a look at the instructions that were provided with us to see what it's telling us to do. Okay, let's look at our abbreviations. It looks like we will be doing single crochet, half double crochet, front loops only, back loops only. This is actually not good for beginners because it doesn't tell you how to do any of these stitches or have any information on where you can find out how to do these stitches. I mean, if you're a smart bean, you could go on Google and you can Google it and find the answers, but that's a lot of work to have to go through if you don't know what you're doing. If you're just a complete noob and you bought this kit, you're gonna already be left out in the cold because it doesn't tell you how to do any of the stitches that are being performed in this pattern. The way that they're explaining this is a little bit confusing, but they've broken down your sentence to show you how to read this pattern. And essentially they've got stuff in a parentheses, and they're telling you that if something's in a parenthesis, that you're going to do the stitches in that parenthesis the number of times that it says next to the parenthesis. And then in the end, you're going to have how many stitches you're going to have, and it tells you what round number that you're on. So a little basic breakdown of how to read this pattern. Now, when we move over here to the actual steps to make this, I am immediately seeing a problem with this. They are telling you to chain one before all of your rounds. It doesn't anywhere explain to you that you should be slip stitching in between your rounds. It's just telling you to chain and then move on to do all of the steps to get there. Now, I know that this is wrong, but if you're a new crocheter and you are trying to learn and you've got this kit, you're excited, it's not going to turn out right. And there's no other instructions elsewhere that tell you that you should always slip stitch, chain one and slip stitch between rounds. That's wrong for like 3 reasons. There's a few different ways that we could go here in trying to make this kit. I could do exactly what it tells me to do, which is going to turn out wrong. We could do what I think they're telling me to do, which is still going to turn out weird, or we could do what I know should be done. If you're not familiar and you've never made amigurumi before, when you are making amigurumi, typically you're working in a continuous round. That means instead of having a row where you stop at the end and chain and then turn your work and go the other direction, you just keep going in a circle. And you don't even chain one and slip stitch between your rounds. You just keep on going and keep on keeping on until you get to the end of your work, at which point you typically are closing that up because you're making like a stuffed animal. I know if I just follow their instructions, it's not going to work out. So what I think we're going to do, just to show you what we're talking about here and the difference between these things, I am going to start making one of these parts of our little succulent pot and show you what it would look like if you were to just chain one and then keep going like it's telling you. And then we'll show you what you're supposed to do. So I'm gonna grab our materials here and we'll start making the soil maybe and show you what that would look like if we were to just chain one as it's telling us to do. And then we'll just actually complete the pattern doing what I think you should do, which is none of those things. Just keep going and don't chain one or slip stitch between your rounds. I'm not sure if you can see, try to put something white behind it, make it a little easier. There's like a divot that forms here and a weird line. And that's because we're doing a chain one in between. Like that should not be there. And if you don't do your chain one, if you just do whatever it says for round one, don't chain one, just keep going in a circle for round two, keep going in a circle for round three, keep going in a circle for round four. You won't have that happen and you won't get a weird shape or a seam going down the side of your work. So what I'm gonna do is just undo this back to our first round and we're just gonna start over and we're gonna do this just ignoring that chain one and following the instructions otherwise. This dark brown yarn was so much of a problem, it was splitting on me non-stop when I was crocheting with it, and then when I had to frog it, it got tangled multiple times, eventually ending in a knot that I could not get undone no matter what I did. So I cut the yarn and proceeded to play yarn chicken and lose. That's right, you guessed it, I lost. I managed to go back and free a little bit more yarn and was able to finish the work though, thank goodness. I've gotten to the end of the soil part of our pattern. It doesn't ever instruct you to finish off your work on any of these parts that I've seen so far, it just says sow the soil to the pot and stuff with fiber fill, but it doesn't tell you how to stop crocheting. So yeah, I'm finding this is very not beginner friendly. If you're brand new and you pick up this kit thinking it's going to teach you how to crochet, you're going to be left high and dry on a few points here. I just finished off my soil the way I know that it should be done. And we are going to move on to the next part of the pattern, which I'm going to step back and do the pot, which is the first thing that it listed here on the instructions. One other critique I would have of this is the format in which they give you this yarn. It's kind of just wrapped together in somewhat of a hank and tied around the center. When you undo this yarn, it does tend to tangle on itself, and you can see in the time lapse that my yarn keeps tangling and getting caught and creeping up on me, and I had to stop quite a few times to undo some tangles. Luckily it wasn't anything super bad, and it did manage to get a little bit better with the purple yarn. I think that I found a method by that point to work with it where it wasn't going to get so tangled. You could always be proactive and wind it into a ball first, but I am lazy and just did not want to do that. We have pot. Now, the next thing in the instructions tells me to sew this to this and stuff this guy while I'm doing it. However, if we look ahead, now we're gonna make all of our little succulent pieces, and then we need to attach it to this, which to me, that doesn't make sense to do after sewing all of this together. So here's what I think makes the most sense is to make all of the pieces for our succulent, assemble those to this, sew this in place, and stuff it. That makes way more sense than doing this and then sewing these after it's all together. That doesn't make any sense to me. Come on now, pattern. Makes sense. Makes sense. Now I am really hungry and my phone is dying and I can no longer record on here. So what I am gonna do is go eat some food, charge my phone, and we'll come back later and we will pick up where we've left off and finish up this potted plant. Hello. It's the next day. I was not feeling well last night and just didn't get back to working on this project, but we're back at it fresh the next day, ready to finish up our cute little succulent plant from our Dollar Tree kit. Now it's time for us to move on to making the flower petals. There are 3 different components to the succulent part of this. There are large leaves, medium leaves, and small leaves. Using context clues, it looks like you make 4 of the large leaves, 3 of the small leaves, and 3 of the medium leaves. That's what I'm going to go with, and hopefully that will work when it comes time to assemble them all together. We have a leaf, but I need to make 3 more of these. So I'm going to go make 3 more of these and we'll keep going. We have 4 large leaves now. So Now I just need to make 4 medium leaves and then 3 small leaves. Or is it 3 and 3? Okay, I need to make 3 medium leaves and 3 small leaves. So we're getting closer. It did not occur to me just how many little parts there were to this, and so it is taking me a lot longer to make this little guy than I anticipated it would. But also, like, I'm stopping and talking to you guys while I'm doing it, so it would have been a lot faster if I was just doing this all the way through. However, this tiny crochet hook is really cramping my hand as well, so you might notice me doing this in the time lapses while I'm working on this, because it is not ergonomic to hold this little 3mm hook. Anyway, enough of my complaining. We are going to go back to time lapse, and I'm going to finish the rest of the leaves for our little succulent. One of the reasons that I wouldn't think this is a good idea for beginners is due to the complexity of the pattern. There are quite a lot of pieces that you have to make and then assemble together. I think it would be more ideal for you to get like 3 colors of yarn, yellow, black, and white, and a crochet hook, and then watch a tutorial on how to make a bee. That would teach you the basics of working in the round. It would have very little bit of sewing, and then you would get to have a cute bee and be very successful with your first project, instead of leaping directly into something that has quite a lot of assembly involved. These parts are really small, and there are a lot of them that you have to make, and then you gotta go and sew them all together. So I would recommend, if you're interested in starting to crochet and you don't know how, invest in a little yellow, black, white yarn, a hook, some polyfill, and go to town making some bees with some free YouTube tutorials. We have all of the leaves for our succulent completed. All of our parts are done. Now we just have to sew all of these things together. We're going to do this with the needle provided. This is a plastic sewing needle, which does have quite a lot of flex to it. It won't be something I'll be using a lot going forward, I can tell you that. I'll probably put this in my travel sewing kit just to have an additional, which is where I have my other plastic sewing needle. I'm going to sew these together. We'll go back into a time lapse, and then I will show you the finished product. Making a bunch of little leaves is tedious, but sewing all of this together is definitely more tedious, especially when they give you this flimsy little sewing needle and like virtually no sewing instructions. I persevered and managed to use the front of the package as a visual guide to what the succulent was supposed to look like. I sewed the little leaves together in a triangle, the medium leaves around the outside of the small leaves, and the large leaves around the outside of the medium leaves. I ended up only using 3 of the 4 large leaves because I felt like with 4 it just didn't look right. So once I had all of the leaves together, I sewed those to the soil and then began sewing the soil to the little pot by attaching it to the remaining back loops from the final round of the plant pot. I stuffed a little stuffing inside, and I had to play a little yarn chicken, but I managed to make it all happen and my little plant was done. It's done! I have a cute little plant! Look at him! Isn't it so cute? I am super proud of my new purple succulent plant child. I'll have to come up with a cute name for it, and I will keep it close by so that I can always remember these fun times that we spent together. The most valuable thing we got from our Dollar Tree crochet kit was the friends we made along the way. Seriously though, this is really, really cute, and I am satisfied that for $1.25 I got a crochet hook, materials, and instructions on how to make a cute little crocheted creation. The thing is, my personal opinion is that crochet kits are targeted towards beginners, which means that everything included in a crochet kit needs to be beginner friendly. And if the instructions in the kit don't tell you how to do the basic stitches, they don't tell you how to put all the stuff together, they don't explain. Well, also, they were telling you what to do wrong. They told you to just chain randomly at the beginning of every single round without doing anything else. And that doesn't even make sense. So you have to be able to know what they're meaning and then do what you think they're telling you to do rather than doing what they're actually telling you to do. As a pattern tester, I have a lot of notes for Dollar Tree. And like one thing, it told me that half double crochet would be needed, and it has it listed as an abbreviation in the instructions, and they never use half double crochet in the entire pattern. A little bit heavy on the sewing, especially for a beginner with the sparse instructions. Like, I think if you got all the way through how to crochet this and then you were going to put it together, you still might run into a little bit of a problem. If you are very good at reading patterns or you've made amigurumi before, and I think this would probably be a really easy project for you. I was able to figure out what they meant, and I would have had no problems making this on my own. However, crochet kits are designed for beginners. If it's not designed for beginners, you wouldn't be including everything you needed in one kit, because people who know how to crochet and do crochet, we have crochet hooks. I have a whole container full of stitch markers. I don't need yarn. I would need guidance if I was buying this kit, and that is the one thing that I feel it's truly lacking. I think that the materials provided were sufficient. I think that if you were to make a little plant like this on your own, notes that I would have for improvement is you could use like a piece of plastic canvas in the bottom to help give it a flat platform to sit on so that it's not as wobbly when you sit it down. Or you could even like weight this down with aquarium gravel inside of here instead of using a lot of stuffing. And then it would be like a paperweight on your desk and it would stay in place. Whereas this is like easily, because it's like a cat toy. I'm like a little kitty playing with my cat toy. I'll give this 3 out of 5 stitch markers, and I will only rate that so highly because it did have all of the materials I needed to complete the project. I have a crochet hook and a stitch marker and a little bit of stuffing left over to show for it, as well as my cute little guy. So, I think that the instructions are really the problem when we're looking at this as a whole for its beginner worthiness as a kit. And that's why I counted it down the way that I did. When I went on to Dollar Tree's website, I was able to find crochet kits for animals. The succulent was not listed anywhere on their website. I think there were like 6 different animals available, but it said that they were out of stock and they didn't know when they were coming back in stock. Additionally, when I scrolled down on that page, there were reviews for the crochet kits, and it was rated at about 3 out of 5 stars on there as well. There were some people who gave it like 1 or 2 stars because of the poor instructions. There were some people who rated it 5 stars because they were like, heck, it worked. I got all the stuff. It was only $1.25. The instructions that they showed pictures of in the reviews for all of the animal crochet kits looked like they were only charts. This kit has actual written word pattern instructions as well as photos and no diagrams whatsoever. I don't know if this is a new version and that's why it's not on their website, or if it's a one-off, if this is something they're not going to keep doing. You guys let me know in the comments down below if you've seen crochet kits at your local Dollar Tree, and if you do, pick them up, and if you've made any of these, let me know how it worked out for you down below as well. I'm really curious to see if any other crocheters have found these and tried these out. I hope that you enjoyed watching me make this cute little Dollar Tree crochet kit. If you did, maybe like the video and consider subscribing, because I upload videos like this as well as crochet tutorials every other Wednesday, and I love to make new crochet friends. Speaking of crochet friends, you can always find out what I'm up to over on my social media. I am Graceface Creates on all platforms. Thanks again for watching, and happy crocheting!